Right, so now for the sewing, you have to place the first facing beneath this way, right? Face the first one beneath, then face the block like fabric at the center as well, and then also face this as well in this form, and then make sure that the both notches are corresponding. Hence, this was the reason the armhole wasn't trimmed yet. So face it that way, and then you stitch from there. That is the reason you don't need to trim your armhole. So stitch from there, and then you go all through that way, and then you sew from the center point, and then end to the other end of the shoulder, and then you also sew from here as well and come over to this point. So this is how it's going to be, and then by the end of the video you should be able to see or know how to cut your shirt and sew your shirt. Then repeat the same thing on the other side. Now all sewings must start from the center notching, then start from there as well, and then sew the other one as well. Alright, so now you also complete the sewing on the other side, and then make sure you take your time in doing this. So stitch from the center notchings all through to the other end of the fabric. So after doing this now, you turn it over, and then you see the results of what you have done. So this is how it will come out, and then you fling it up to the front that way, and then you are meant to top stitch one of the facings to the bodies of the outfit. So you top stitch one of them, then the one underneath will not be turned over yet. If you see the laid down while you top stitch this end, that's all. The reason of doing it this way is to make sure that the threading is not coming out on the other side. Then you top stitches from there all through to this point, and then this is how it will be. The top stitching is enabling the facing to relax properly, right? That is the essence of the top stitching. Then after which you cut out your thread in this form. Then you can now bring it over. So now after you must have done the top stitching, you now go and iron out your facings down, and then you place the front panel in this direction, and then you bring the back facing to come over in that form. You bring the back facing to come over in that form, and then you top stitch the shoulder. You sew on the shoulder, right? So you sew in that form, and that is all you need to do. Just trying to insert the back piece, the front piece in between the two facings. So you stitch half an inch down all through that way, sew it down, and then when you must have done that, you make sure it's properly arranged. So take your time in doing this as well. So you cut your threads. You cut your threads as shown, and then you push it in that way. Push it in that way, and then this is how it will come out. Now the shoulder has been jointed or joints in this form, and then do the same thing on the other side. Bring the front piece, place it on top that way, and then you fling the other facing to come the other way around this way, as you can see how I'm doing it. Then hold it together at the neck area, then stitch it half an inch down, that's 0.5, half an inch down. Then once you have stitched that point, that is all you need to do, and then you go ahead and complete the rest of the sewing processes. Stitch up through from there. Also from there. Then after which you cut the thread as well. Then push out the facing, the back piece come out in that direction. Then you top stitch the shoulder, right? But top stitch the shoulder. This helps to relax the bodies of the outfit. Top stitch the shoulder. So take your time as well to top stitch the shoulder. Also go over to the next shoulder from there and make sure that the stitching is neat enough. So you cut out the threads as well. Then this is how it will be. Cut the threads as well. Then once you are done doing that, how the shirt will come out. Then bear in mind that you have not yet folded your button allowance, there's no problem. And then you are meant to trim the neck and then trim the shoulder, and then you now go to the table and use hemming gum to hem the button allowances. The shirt button allowance that way, so iron gradually is coming out, so you must make sure you must have ironed properly this way, and then you now double fold it again, and then you put your hemming gum inside, and then this is how you double fold it in this form, right? Iron, and then put hemming gum inside, and then you gum as well. I'm double folding. One edge will be facing the entering the center part of the other first edge this way, and then you place hemming gum underneath it and then gum. So now as you can see, I've added hemming gum underneath here, and then I first added one hemming gum strand underneath the first folding, and then before I folded again and then add one. So 2 strands of hemming gum is enough, right? So you now fold in this direction and then make sure the folding is properly done. Then you can now iron out properly, then it will now stick. So you do the same thing on the other part of the shirt as well. Apply hemming gum on it. I believe most of us know what they call the hemming gum, which is called the engine house of sewing, right? This is the hemming gum, right? This is the bigger one. It's being sold for 600 naira, 700 naira for one of these. Then you must make use of it. Now, the reason of hemming gum is that it makes it to look finer and smoother and gives you a perfect finishing, right? So you must do it that way, then you hem as well. Now, when you have done this way, so this is how the back armhole will come out. Then you can now trim it out in that form. Now, the reason I did not trim the armhole while sewing, while cutting the cutting, was because I wanted to make sure that after joining, I will not trim at exact size of the armhole I want, right? So this is how you must do yours for you to have a nice finishing, right? So you try your best to make sure everything is properly aligning, and then you can now iron the shoulder area, and then before you start trimming this armhole to correspond with the front armhole. So this is how you trim all through that way. Then you can see your armhole of the front and the back are now corresponding, right? So this is one of the easiest methods you can lay your hands on. I'll also show us another method as well, which we cut in the form of our regular senator cutting. That one as well is very okay. So whichever method you want to use, there's no problem. So just make sure you know the roots or the processes involved. So you can now see that we have done trimming our armholes, and then at this point you now fold into 2 equal parts this way, and then trim the actual shoulder measurement of your customer, and then give it the curvy feeling at the down. So this is what we are going to do. So we are trying our best to make sure we cut out the actual shoulder, which was 17. So by 2 is 8.5, then plus half an inch, making it to be 9. So you're going to cut at 0.9 inches that way. So you cut from there, 9 inches that point that way, and then just a slight trimming, right? So just trim small, just trim all through that way. So just a slight trimming. You might not need to encroach more on the armhole so that you not deepen the armhole much. So slight trimming, and then you also cross check the other down part of the armhole in this form. Make sure the both are corresponding. So you might now start giving it your chest measurements. Chest measurement I have is a chest line of 38. So by 2 is 9.5. Then the extra half inch is 10. So you just measure out all through that way, and then trying your best to make sure you leave the inch that will be used to top stitch. So I'm marking as 40. So 1 inch is what I have there. So I will take 1.5 at the tummy area to give it fitting, and then take half an inch at the down area of the hip to get the curve connection, as you can see how it is. Then you cut from there that way, and then you make sure the 4 panels are properly balanced, and then cut from there all through that way, and then go down all through to that point. And then you can still decide to leave it straight if you so wish, but the curvy nature gives you that English finishing. Then measure the shirt length you want. So let's take it to be a shirt length of 27.5. So you add extra half inch or thereabout for the folding, and then give it a curvy connection. Then come up by 2.5 inches from the edge that way, and then this is the this is the maximum you can go. Then curve all through to this point, and then curve all through to this point. Bear in mind that you don't need to curve it excessively, because too much curving can make you not to be able to fold the down part of your shirt. Curve where you can fold, right? Then after this, now you notch your shoulder lines, and then we open it up this way. So this is how the curve effect will come out at the hem. Then we now cross check our neckline, and then we can now go ahead to cut our collar and fix our sleeves, and then make sure that everything is corresponding as well. So you do a little bit of neck trimming from there, cut out the protruding parts of your neck that way, cut it out in this form, right? Cut it out, then cut from here as well, cut it out in this form, right? Then you cut out, make sure that the neck is properly balanced, then cut all through from there. Always make sure you work on the back, on the neck from the back piece. Don't encroach or don't deepen the front neck, only work on the back from the back. Then cut from here all through that way, and then this is how you can work on your neck. So we have a neckline of 16 inches or thereabout. So you can now go ahead to measure if you so desire. But once the calculation is correct, you can leave it that way, guys. So now the neckline we have is 15.5 or 16. Then add extra 2 to it for the button allowance overlapping. It becomes 17 inches or 17.5. Then you make sure that the neck measurement is corresponding to the 17.5. It helps you to have a perfect lock when you button your shirt at the neck area, right? So the neck will be bigger here by 2 inches for the button allowance of 1 inch on both ends. Then after doing that, take your time to synchronize or balance the bodies of the outfits, and then you mark in this form, make sure everything is properly arranged, right? Then you trim the neck this way, trim the neck this way. So take your time, trim the neck a bit. A slight encroachment will be enough. That's all you need. You don't need much cutting. Slight encroachment from the front all through to the back. Then making sure that the neck will be now be extra bigger by extra 2 inches, right? From the whatever neck measurement you have. So that is how your neck will be. So cut it out in that form, and then after which you can now go and cross-check your neck again before you trim further. So let's measure our neck to see what the neck is giving us. So from there, we are measuring our neck from the edge of the button allowance all through to the back. So we have it going all through that way. So we have now a neckline of 17. I think it's okay for us. I can still go ahead to trim 1/4 inch or thereabout. Alright, so now I have finished folding my plackets. Now this placket was folded in this form. The first one was 1/2 inch, then fold again, and then this is how the placket will come out in this form. It wasn't gummed. There's no need to gum the placket for the shirt, right? So this one is how it's gonna be. And then the sleeve now, from the center sleeve, I am marking 3 inches or 2.5, depends on your customer's size. So for this size I have, I'm marking 2.5. Now the depth, I'm marking depth of 3.3, 3.5. This is where the placket should be placed. Then I am trying to notch or cut the center part, that the part you mark the 3 inches away from the center folding, right? Then you give it a V notch at that point, or cut it straight. Then make sure that the two sleeves we are facing each other, they were mirroring each other before you do that. Then you take the one sleeve, the one cuff or placket that was not folded at all, then stitch towards the center fold, stitch it to the line close to the center fold. The other way around, the line close to the end of the sleeve and not the center fold. Then you start from there to stitch from the inside, then stitch all through that way. And then when you get to that point, you cut off your threads as well. And then you now give it the V notch at that end, or a straight notch. You might not give it V, you might give it a straight notching at that point. Then you fling it over this way, and then you make sure you fold in this form, and then making the folding to cover up the other one. Then this is how it will come out. Then you stitch down this way, stitch down this way, and then after you have done that, you also cut off the excesses, right? So just cut it out. Then you now bring the one that was folded, now place it towards the center line this way. The gap left, this little gap left, is what we use to stitch it to the sleeve. Then hold it down that way and